Have a look at my first ever sew-on felt patch. Now don't worry, I'm hoping to share with you all the details on that in an upcoming video. But for now, let's see how to sew a felt patch onto clothing. I'd say clothing, but it can be any garment, backpack, or even a pencil case. If you are familiar with whip stitch in applique, this won't be much different than that. First of all, let's position the patch where we want it to be on the clothing. I'm going to use a pin to keep it in place. If your patch is really small, you might not need a pin. You can also use a bit of fabric glue as well, but I'm not a big fan of that, so I'm going to go with a pin. Moving on to sewing, thread your needle and make a knot at the end. Try to use a matching thread color for the patch if you want the threads to be less visible. But I'm going for a contrasting thread color just for the sake of this video to show things clearly, and I also think black will look good with the denim fabric. Let's start and try to keep your stitches limited to the edge area of the patch. Try not to go way beyond that, in this case the grey area around the patch. First, insert the needle from the wrong side of the patch a little closer to its edge. Pull the thread all the way, and by doing so, you can easily hide away the knot in between the two layers. This next step will be 2 in 1. First, move your needle down directly opposite or a little bit angled to the first entry point, and this has to be only on the clothing side at the edge of the patch. Then at the same time, move the needle up and come through both clothing and patch layers, leaving a little bit of space between the first entry point and the last. At this point, pull the thread all the way, and this will be your first stitch. If you don't want to leave any space between the stitches, you can do that too by moving the needle up right next to the first entry point. After that, it'll be the same steps again and again all around the patch. I'll do a few more stitches so you can practice with me. Move the needle down at the edge of the patch on the clothing side, and then move the needle up through both layers. At that point, pull the thread all the way to make a stitch. Try to keep an equal space in between the stitches, and also try to keep the length of the stitches similar as possible. Now let me share a few things you may need to know. As I mentioned in the beginning, sew-on patches usually go on clothing, backpacks, or something with 2 layers. In that case, be careful not to catch the second underneath layer when you are sewing. Next thing I want you to know is, you can even start to sew from the back of the clothing layer as well if it is accessible. But most of the time, this is not an option because of the accessibility to certain areas of the clothing. That's why I started to sew from the back of the patch. It makes things easier and also hides away the knot nicely. Compared to regular fabric patches, felt patches are easy to make, and it's really simple. As I mentioned in the beginning, I'll share the entire process of making this patch in my next video, and I'm planning to give away the free pattern for this patch. I hope you'll look forward to that as well. At this point, we are all done sewing around the patch and I have made the last stitch. Now let's see how to securely end the sewing. For that, move your needle under the last stitch like this and then pull it until it forms a small loop. Now go through the loop and slowly pull it all the way to make a tight knot. You can also go for a second knot if you prefer, and I'm going to go for that for a more secure stitch. Now rather than just trimming the thread here, you can insert the needle in between the two layers, which are the patch and the fabric layer, and then come through a little further than the first entry point, somewhere on the patch. From that point, pull the thread all the way. Then pull the thread towards you and trim it. That way you can nicely tuck in the remaining thread end in between the layers, so it can't be seen from the right side or even from the wrong side of the fabric. I'll show the wrong side of this jacket at the end. Remove the pin and we are all done at this point. Now this is how the sew-on patch looks on my jacket, and I think it really looks one of a kind. The good thing about sew-on patches is, whenever you feel like you want to remove it or change its position, you can simply remove these stitches without damaging your clothing. I hope this video will help you in sewing patches to your clothing, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you all for watching, and I'll join you in the next one.